Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Onslaught Marvel Universe, dated October 1996. The cover is by Adam Kubert, inked by Jesse Delperdang. It's a double cover, front and back. Huge image there of Onslaught with all of the Avengers and various other Marvel heroes, including the Fantastic Four, and not a hero but Doctor Doom there, going up against this major threat. And up here we have the banner. The evolution of the Marvel Universe happens here, and the evolution in question is that Marvel's heroes, from the Fantastic Four to the Avengers, go to the creative control of Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld for 1 year, Heroes Reborn. So let's get into the issue itself. We have, if we open it up here, big splash page of the Watcher, and we have our creative credits over here on the inside cover. Scott Lobdell and Mark Waid on plot, Mark Waid on the script, Adam Kubert with an assist from Joe Bennett on the art duties. I'll point out when Joe Bennett comes on board. Dan Green with assists from Art T-Bear, Tim Townsend and Jesse Delperdang on inks. Richard Starkings and Comicraft on the digital lettering. Steve Buccellato is the colorist with some Team Bucc digital coloring enhancements. So the Watcher says it's Oadu, even though he isn't named. We've got a nice upshot there and spotting of blacks in Kubert and Dan Green's art. I'm the Watcher, chronicler of history. For countless eons, it has been my task to observe the shining blue orb men call the Earth, to chronicle the grand ascension of the human race, the splendor of its achievements and the glory of its heroes. That all sounds good so far, but turn the page and we get a double page spread here of destruction and the ripping up in Central Park of that memorial to John Lennon. Imagine there. So the Watcher says, my job is done. And he continues, once I was witness to a unique wonderment, a span of time when champions of legend routinely risked their lives to battle the forces of evil and tyranny, an era in which the measure of a hero was gauged not by his power, but by his nobility, by the strength in his heart. It was an age unlike any other, and this is the story of its end. So again, great spotting of blacks on this particular page. I like the acute angle that Kubert has chosen here on the Watcher's face, and also the decision there to light his eyes in deep shadow as well. It's good stuff. Let's turn the page, and what we're going to get now is a flashback to what the Watcher has observed just hours ago at the hands of a creature known only as Onslaught. So this picks up immediately from the end of X-Men, Adjectiveless X-Men, issue 56. And here we have Onslaught hunkered over Professor X, who has come to challenge him. And we get here an interesting layout choice that Adam Kubert does very often and that I like, which is basically quartering the page. It follows on from something that Jack Kirby used to do in the middle and latter half of his run on Fantastic Four. And I think it is an interesting layout choice, and I like it because obviously he varies the angles within the panels themselves, so it keeps the reader's eye interested in the visuals. So here Professor X is challenging Onslaught, saying, you've stripped me of my telepathic powers, you've turned everything I stand for against me, but you are not the unstoppable being you claim to be, you are not my equal. So Onslaught basically kind of laughs at that, and Professor X says to him, there's something you lack, something of me that's not reflected on you, in you, one shred of humanity, and that will be your downfall. Really like this upshot on Professor X's face, and including the little detail of his eyebrows, his arched eyebrows wrapping around his forehead there on either side. That's nice stuff in Kubert's art. So Onslaught, not impressed, I rather doubt that, Charles, as the world will soon see, I've no use for humanity in any of its forms, especially not that mutant race you coddle and protect. So Onslaught's plan now is to kill off all the humans, all of the mutants. But turn the page and we get another double page spread here. Got to turn it sideways so you can get the full blast of that. In X-Men 56, Jean caught that the professor was leaving for Freedom's Plaza to go confront Onslaught on his own, so she silently telepathically contacted Cyclops, and he ordered her to contact all the X-Men and bring them to Central Park, tell them to go to Central Park too. So that's what we see here, and Rogue now has lifted up the professor. So that's a pretty nice image there of everyone with Joseph here in the front. So let's get into where the story goes. And really, Onslaught Marvel Universe is a very plot-driven event comic. There are one or two nice character moments, most particularly with the Avengers and Fantastic Four, because of course they're the ones that are leaving the Marvel Universe. And so that's where any kind of nice character moments really are to be found, and I'll point them out when we get to them. So Onslaught here uses his access to Magneto's magnetic powers to uproot the very earth beneath the feet of the various X-Men and mutants. And the Watcher's narration continues. No one knows where the X-Men found the strength to fight on that day, unless it was from the inspiration of their professor and mentor, as he looked on from the sidelines. Never was he prouder of his students. He knew this was their finest hour, and quite possibly their last. Now, I have a little quibble with this, unless it was from the inspiration of their professor and mentor. It's Professor X's weakness and his decision to mind wipe Magneto that has led to all of this. And I'm just thinking that if Chris Claremont were writing this, not that he would write something like this, that he would plot it out this way, but if he were, he'd certainly have some of the X-Men thinking dark thoughts about Professor X and his culpability for all of this. In any case, the X-Men are rebuffed by Onslaught, and then through the haze and dust, Xavier sensed a coming of hope, of courage. So I like that. I like the little panel details of the various elements that are most associated with these coming heroes. Captain America's shield, the Thing's craggy, rocky fist, clenched fist, Thor's hammer, the Fantastic Four emblem, and Iron Man's helmet there shining in the moonlight. That's good stuff. And then another huge double page spread. So really great art here from Adam Kubert. Very well composed, this image of the Avengers and Fantastic Four arriving to help the X-Men, picking them up literally in some cases. Really like the detail there of the Hulk in the center of the image with Rogue in one hand and Wolverine in the other. So Reed Richards says, the Fantastic, that he's come with the Fantastic Four and everyone else we could find. We're Earth's last line of defense, people. Win or lose, we go out together. Okay, so that's fairly stirring stuff. Really like the spotting of blacks, the lighting on this image as well. The shadows cast there by Doom's costume and also across Thor's body there. That's very good stuff in the art. So now we're going to get a big fight. Onslaught unleashes some magnetic psionic blast at everyone, targeting Joseph there in particular. Professor X spots that, and this is nice little detail here. He crawls across the rubble to pull Joseph to cover. That's very, very good stuff. And then they have a little conversation there. Joseph talking about how he doesn't really remember Professor X, but he says, nevertheless, Charles Xavier, though I no longer know you, I feel safe in assuming that I could not have a finer ally this day. And the professor concurs and says, nor I. We will need the strength of friendship against the worst of both our worlds. So a very kind of childish, thematic here. I really felt as I was rereading this that this was written for 14-year-olds. And again, it's very different from Claremont, where Claremont was able to walk that line and write the X-Men for 16 years, particularly from the midpoint on, where he was writing to a double audience. He was able to write to the 14-year-olds or even 10-year-olds and at the same time have a level in the work that was appealing to college-age students and older adults, and most particularly towards the end of his run. But here, this, to me anyway, like rereading it, it's very much addressed to like young teenagers. That's my kind of take on this. I really like the detail in the art there. of the eyelashes, the lighting on Joseph's eyelashes there. That's a nice little aspect of Kubert's style. So Onslaught here raging, he takes no prisoners, those I need I already have. And that cues us to a switch inside Onslaught's psionic astral plane. And in there you've got imprisoned Franklin Richards and Nathan Gray, the X-Man. So we've also shifted here in the middle point of the special double-sized issue to Joe Bennett's contribution art-wise. So you see a different style from Adam Kubert's. Adam Kubert will be back for the last third, the finale, the climax, the third act of this particular comic. So inside, they're talking away, and Franklin is the one who hasn't lost heart, he says. When X-Man thinks there's nothing they can do, Franklin insists, that's not what Mr. Xavier said. He talked to me, told me to fight Onslaught, but I couldn't, not at all alone. But now that you're here, maybe we can together. So maybe they can be friends and defeat Onslaught. Now we pick up again in Central Park with the Avengers and the X-Men. The Avengers now joining in the fight, Johnny Storm 2, and they're rebuffed once again. The ground, it's quaking. So what's going on? Well, a second sun appears. So that's a bizarre turn of events. And Reed Richards is baffled. How can this be? He says it's inconceivable. And Sue responds, only to a scientist, Reed. You know the rules of the universe. Franklin isn't as hampered. Nothing's impossible to Onslaught. Not when he has the power of X-Man and the imagination of our son at his command. So Cyclops orders Thor and Storm and Crystal to see what they can do to contain the upheaval and keep us alive. The rest of us have to get to Onslaught fast. And then we're back inside in the astral plane within Onslaught. And again, Franklin is the one who inspires X-Man. He says, if we can do anything, we can even get out of here if we try hard enough, right? So X-Man, sweating there, responds, not exactly the super strategy I was hoping for, but maybe there's some truth to it. Keep a good thought, Franklin, and maybe we can at that with a little help. So we'll see, do they get any help later on in the story. Outside, Cable is struggling because he has to keep the technovirus in check at all times, but nonetheless he located Franklin and Nate with a telepathic probe. He says, I can tether them psionically, give them a path to follow out once Onslaught is destroyed, but only with your help. But the Professor doesn't have his telepathy. That was wiped by Onslaught. And so Cable has a plan. Suppose I get inside Joseph's head and use his magnetism to nudge the electrochemical barriers in your brain. Anyway, it's finally agreed that that is what they are going to do in order to get the Professor his telepathy back. Here we have Doom, and good dialogue from Doom here in Mark Waid's script. Doom says, a pity that I'm so often forced to save you from yourselves. As ever, the genius of Victor Von Doom will be our only salvation. Onslaught uses much of his might to maintain his force field in order to eradicate the field. We must distract him. And Rogue asks him, why can we trust you? And he says, because I have no interest in betraying you simply to rule a planet of cinder and ash, child. Onslaught must be stopped. Our next move is yours and yours alone. Only you two together have the power to stun our foe. So then we get a little shot of what else is going on around Manhattan. We've got Foggy Nelson and Karen Page there. And despite everything that's good, this is a bit mad. Despite everything that's going on in Manhattan, Foggy's still out doing grocery shopping. And also we see here J. Jonah Jameson and his editor. Robbie Robertson, isn't it? Yes, Robbie Robertson, and they're looking up towards this second sun and wondering whether there's going to be a tomorrow for the next edition of the Daily Bugle. And then we're back in Central Park, and we have the Vision blending with Rogue, and now we get something that's a bit bananas. The Watcher narrates, at his insistence, The synthesoid vision, phased immaterial, merged with Rogue, augmenting her already titanic strength and damping her absorption power. While Wolverine pierced Onslaught's field with Berserker Rage. That is unbelievable. That is just stretching credulity altogether, even within superhero comics. And Giant Man and Namor held, because he's doing it with bone claws, remember. And Giant Man and Namor held the rift open long enough to allow a moment's passage. So in goes Rogue and the Vision, and they just simply bounce off Onslaught's chest. So he's not impressed. And Reed is taken aback. A blow like that should have staggered him, unless he's thinking the Vision here is shocked and he's losing hope. Hold me together, Wanda. Hold me, he says, while Gambit catches Rogue back there. Now it's time for the one superhero that I thought should have been sent up against Onslaught from the very beginning, and that's the Hulk. So, and also, why isn't Thor going in there too and taking on Onslaught? He is a god after all. So Captain America says Doom's plan worked. The force barrier is fading. Okay, so it did work in time. Onslaught's struggling to maintain control. This is our chance. So Hulk steps up and says, I can take him, Phoenix, but you have to help. You have to enter my brain telepathically and turn Banner off. Shut him down. So Jean goes in. She asks, who's Betty? And the Hulk says, leave me that, okay. Do it. So she does. Banner is puny, says Hulk. And then obviously Joe Bennett was looking at an old Dale Keown drawing of Hulk for this one. I don't think it's a swipe or anything, just inspired by. But it looks good. Hulk is the strongest there is. And he takes Onslaught with a right hook there. And then they fight. No one beats Hulk, no one. This is what they should have done from the very beginning. So while that titanic fight is taking place, we have this quiet moment between Reed and Sue. Susan and Susan says, I know, Reed, I've always known. I love you too with all my heart. And this is the only funny moment in the book. The thing here says, it's slobbering time. That did make me laugh when I was rereading this. Wait up, fellas. I'd rather face a whole onslaught of onslaughts than watch these two birds play Paul and Jamie. Now, I don't know what that reference is. Paul and Jamie, somebody can explain that in the comments. And that's our Ben. Bless him, says Reed. A comedian to the... And he's hesitating there to the end. Don't believe it. I need to see our son again, says Sue, to hold him. I need this world to go on. And then Reed says, don't worry, honey, I'm not giving up, but look around at the masks and the mutants who walked the trail we blazed. Why did that trail take us all here to this moment? She says she doesn't understand. Are you saying everything's been leading up to this? For the first time in my life, I've absolutely no idea, says Reed. And Susan, that scares me. Okay, so now we have the Avengers and the X-Men continuing to take on Onslaught. Man, mutant or god, nothing would stand in their path. Forward they strode, knowing with growing certainty that this was their last battle. And now we're into the final act. And we're back with Adam Kubert on the art. I think this is Dan Green again, inking over Kubert here. It's good stuff. I like the layout design here. So we've got a huge Captain America head, and then we've got these swatches of 3 panels where he's looking to his right at Namor and the Human Torch going up against Onslaught, and he looks to his left and we see Hawkeye, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and then he looks up. I like that up shot, that really worm's eye view up, and we see the Falcon there going up against Onslaught. And in the Watcher's narration, comforted only by the knowledge that there was no better way to go than beside old friends. So the Captain America there is smiling. And meanwhile, this is where the action is. Hulk is really holding his own against Onslaught, but Onslaught boasts, you cannot win, you genetic freak. Judgment has already been passed. No one will survive the coming onslaught. No one is worthy. And look at that punch, almost ripping off Hulk's face there. But of course, Hulk, like Wolverine, has regenerative powers. And then this is like a continuity detail in the art. This is supposed to be Trish Tilby reporting for channel whatever. She used to be a reporter for WARC. So that's not quite right. That doesn't look anything like Trish Tilby. Here we've got a nice little detail from the Fantastic Four comics. It's Willie Lumpkin here, their postman, and he's taken aback by the Titanic fight in Central Park. This is a really good page here as the Hulk winds up for one last massive punch against Onslaught. Onslaught says here, I despise humans for their prejudice and hypocrisy toward the Homo superior race. I loathe mutants for their cowardly attempts to be accepted rather than to rule. So Onslaught is the ultimate misanthrope, and he's facing another misanthrope, the Hulk, who always wanted to be left alone. Tell me, have I forgotten anyone? Asks Onslaught, and Hulk responds, just Hulk. Makes him mad. The madder Hulk gets, the stronger Hulk gets, and Hulk is angry. And just look at that. What a great kind of DeLuca effect rendering of this massive ultimate punch from Hulk, which goes off like a nuclear blast at ground zero. Odin's blood, exclaims Thor. I see neither friend nor foe. And again, I'm just thinking, why wasn't Thor in there attacking Onslaught along with Hulk? He should have been in there too. In any case, look behind the settling dust, Thor, says Captain America. And here's a big twist and a big surprise. There's Hulk and beneath him Banner. So somehow that massive punch untethered Banner from Hulk. And that, of course, allowed Peter David to continue writing the Hulk after Bruce Banner would go to the Heroes Reborn universe. And that final massive punch of Hulk's cracked open Onslaught's armor. So, did the heroes win? Turn the page. No, they did not. Onslaught here says hardly. Onslaught, talking about himself in the third person, classic supervillain trope. Onslaught is no longer a physical creature who can be bludgeoned into submission. I'm thought itself. I'm perception. Perception is reality, and reality rejects you. So, what to do now? Reed Richards says we've been fools. He's been evolving all along, and this must be his final form. His armor was only a shell. Now he's pure psionic energy, free to spread worldwide, and we've left ourselves with no way to attack him, since we can no longer touch him. So Thor now finally acts. He should have acted much, much earlier. 'Tis a vessel to hold him we need, then use mine, my flesh and blood, he says. The sinew of the thunder god shall surely contain such a wicked storm, and once it does, you must show me no mercy. Only by felling me can you fell Onslaught. So in he goes into that maelstrom of psionic energy, and it's weird inside. It's completely black and blank. So Reed here wonders, even Thor can't carry him alone. It's not working. Onslaught's tearing him apart from within. So the other heroes decide to get involved. Then one side stretch on. Mrs. Grimm always taught her boy Benji to lend a hand when there's heavy lifting. You with me, Matchstick? So the two of them go in to the psionic maelstrom, and now the Avengers follow too. And in they all jump. And here we do get a nice little moment between Giant Man and Janet Van Dyne. So these two were married, they were separated. Jim Shooter wrote famously, infamously, Giant Man slapping his wife, and that led to their marriage breakdown. And here they get a moment of reconciliation before going into the Heroes Reborn universe. Where the Wasp says, slow down, handsome. How's a pretty partner in Pearl ever supposed to keep pace with such a long-legged dreamboat? And Giant Man says, I love you, Jan. I always have, even through the bad times. Same here, High Pocket, she says, as they go into the rift. Nice lighting here, spotting of blacks on Iron Man's armor. That's good stuff. Feel the wind, says Reed. Onslaught's thrashing like a tornado. Thor's idea is working. We're weakening him. Iron Man be ready to. And Iron Man wonders, well, where's Doctor Doom? And then the scene switches to inside the astral plane within Onslaught. And somebody's talking to Nate. Take my hand. And Nate isn't happy. Your hand. Goodbye, frying pan. Hello, fire. I'm supposed to trust you. Look around. This is you. So who was talking to him? It'll be revealed shortly. So there's a moment of doubt there about taking the offered hand or not. Then we have another nice moment with Quicksilver and his wife Crystal. They've had their rough times as well, where Quicksilver thinks that Crystal's going to stay with him because Reed says that no mutants should go in, because whenever the mutants go in, Onslaught is able to live again. Scarlet Witch is the exception, because she seemed to be protected by her hex, but the rest of you don't dare make contact. It's up to us. So Crystal here says to her husband, "Oh, Pietro, as always, you do not listen." He said, "Mutants cannot participate." He said nothing about Inhumans. So she knocks Quicksilver away and jumps into the psionic tornado. Quicksilver was about to jump after her, but Wolverine pulls him back. "It's over, bub. She's gone. I'm sorry," he says. And where is Doom? Well, here he is, and this is good stuff. He's working on a device to absorb Onslaught's energies. My ingenious absorption module can certainly store enough of Onslaught's energy to turn this day to my advantage, he was about to say, when the device is shattered by Hawkeye. And Iron Man arrives and says, "Guess your fan club doesn't have a branch in Latveria, Hawkeye. That's one thing they'll have to take care of there after they elect a new monarch." Doom protests, "Release me. What is the meaning of this?" "I don't expect you to know, Doom. It's a new idea to you. It's called sacrifice." Now, there's a moral problem here. Iron Man doesn't get Doom's consent to go into this psionic maelstrom. He's basically just taking that decision for Doom. So there is, a standpoint here where you could criticize Iron Man for that particular action in terms of the ethics of it. In any case, outside there are two superheroes left, and that is Reed and Sue. And Reed says to Cyclops, "Once Sue and I are in, the X-Men have to hit Onslaught with everything they have in order to blast him out of existence. Otherwise, what we've done here today will be for nothing. Understand?" So Cyclops says yes. 4-2. Of course, Johnny and the Thing aren't there, and in they go. And there's a crack of lightning, perhaps. And then we get another big double-page spread, and Cyclops orders the X-Men to attack, which they do. Though, once again, I don't know what Wolverine can achieve with his bone claws there. And they did. Their hearts heavy with sorrow and rage. Let's see. While below, oh, by the way, just one little detail. Looks like the Professor got his psionic powers back as well. While below, in the shadow of Armageddon, one last forgotten figure stirred. It's Bruce Banner. He gets up, separated from the Hulk, and joined the fray in the only manner he knew how, as the symphony of power built to a mighty crescendo. So Bruce Banner, once upon a time, he went out just right before a gamma bomb blast in order to save Rick Jones, and here he is acting heroically again. And there's a massive explosion with a roar loud enough to swallow the world. "It's happening," says Joseph. "Onslaught's vanishing. Nathan, Franklin, if we're going to pull you free, it has to be now." So it's the Professor and Magneto working together, who are reaching out to Nate, who's got Franklin. And finally, the hands connect and out they go. So we turn the page here and we can see them falling over Central Park, with Onslaught vanished and all the Avengers and Fantastic Four gone as well. And the news reporters there, the TV reporters, capturing everything on camera, and the Watchers saying, "In that moment, time and space froze, reality warped, and perhaps hope was reborn, heroes reborn. But as their salvation was secured above, human witnesses gaped in horror at the hell below, and passed a terrible and vicious judgment against those they would hold forever responsible for the tragedy." Yeah, so within the Marvel Universe, there is a response to the missing Fantastic Four and Avengers, and the X-Men get the blame of a world without heroes. So Rogue catches X-Man and Franklin. There's some concern that X-Man is dead, but of course he's not. Just a little shell-shocked, he says. And he asks, "Did we win?" Joseph responds, "I think it will depend on who you ask." And the Professor says to Franklin, "You were a brave boy today, Franklin. Your parents would have been very proud of you. And he asks, where are they? Where did they go? But what's this little blue ball here that we're getting to see, that the camera's, so to speak, zooming in on this page? Well, that will be revealed ultimately in time as to what it is, the means for the heroes to return to the Marvel Universe. They'll be back, won't they? Asked Franklin. You'll see them again someday, I promise. In the meantime, so long as you hold them in your heart, they'll always be with us, says the professor. And we get like a moment also between the professor and Nate Gray, where Nate Gray says, I wish I had gotten a chance to learn from them. That's the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. They could have taught me so much. You would know and like them in the world you came from? Asked the professor. Not at all. Maybe if we had, they might have made my home a better place. God knows they made a difference here. What's this little skull in the pupil of his eye? What's that about? And a nice kind of transition here to the Watcher's flashing eye. And that is my story. And again, we've got that 4-panel layout on these concluding couple of pages here before one big splash. And that is my story. Touching, says Apocalypse, who was his audience for his speech. Touching, a tale of the fittest surviving, my favorite kind. That's a little bit funny. I like that. And Apocalypse continues, you were correct, Watcher, when you told this hour as the end of your age of wonder, for there is another age dawning, an age of apocalypse. That's all he's ever driven by, bringing about the age of apocalypse. And mark my words, with the arena cleared of defenders and heroes, that age will be upon us soon. Perhaps, says the Watcher. I like that choice there. We've got this close-up on the Watcher's legs and Apocalypse walking off in between them, into the burning fire, into the rubble. Or perhaps a different day is at hand, Apocalypse. So for somehow the Imagine memorial is repaired here underneath the Watcher. A day of new possibilities, of heroes rediscovered and heroes reborn. The champions of Earth are but mortal men. Their passing, however tragic, is inevitable, but their legacy will endure so long as their memory is not forgotten. And there's Franklin with his blue ball, and what is in the blue ball? The saga continues in Fantastic Four #1, Captain America #1, Iron Man #1, Avengers #1, and the rest of the Marvel Universe. There you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Onslaught Marvel Universe and the epic climax of the Onslaught storyline as a device to get the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom and Bruce Banner into the creative clutches of Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video on YouTube and consider sharing it. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.